image warning.
All right, so this is the part where I talk about how I quit using HyperSmooth at all for any of my GoPro work. In fact, I started switching everything to what I'm shooting in now, which is 4K 4x3 with a wide lens, and I use gyroflow because you can take what we've seen so far and go from this to this, which is, even though I'm holding the camera a bit on an angle, it's much more flat. It looks a lot more like it should, and I didn't have to do anything extra here, and I didn't have to rely on GoPro to do this for me in the GoPro Hero, because I did a shoot a while back where I filmed some Harley Davidson motorcycles doing some tricks, and it was really cool, and I had one amazing shot in there, and whenever I got it, you know, in the editing software, this is what I saw. And yes, I admittedly wasn't the smoothest flying when I caught this, but I definitely didn't go with my quad, and that was 100% in the camera. So after that, I vowed to learn gyroflow a lot more, and I'm going to show you how I use gyroflow to get different types of stabilization rather than getting just what the GoPro will give you, and how you can again go from this where it's walking around and it's a little bit on the shaky side and not quite right, to this where it's much more stable, linear, and it's a much more usable image. So let's get into that. So here we are in gyroflow, and now this is version 1.5.2, and as time goes on, things are going to change. So if anything drastically changes to this workflow, then I'll come back and do a follow-up video in the future, but for now, this seems pretty legit. So you've got back to your desk, your workspace, whatever, and you've got gyroflow open, you've got your SD card removed from your GoPro or whatever action camera you're using, and you put it into your memory card reader. So you want to go over here to open your file. I already know which file I'm going to use. I'm going to go and use right here. It's in my DCIM, my GoPro. It is file 470. So this is the one that I'm going to load. Now, used to, you'd have to pick your file and then go through and do a little bit of extra work. But right now, look at this. Boom. It's done a lot of the hard work for me. It's gone in and it's analyzed the file name, and it knows that it's a GoPro Hero 10 Black, and it's got the dimensions. If you look there, the dedicated lens is wide with the dimensions, and it's got the length of the video, frame rate. It's doing the hard lifting for you. Now, once you get past this point, this is where I go through and I take control of the stabilization. I could just say, hey, gyroflow, I like what you've done, and let's do that and stick with it. But what I like to do is, I'm going to go ahead and mute this so that you're not deafened. We're going to go ahead and toggle the stabilization overview, because I want to see how much is going on here. So this right here, if I take this and we turn off stabilization, this is the image that we start with. So this is what it started with, and then when I let stabilization do its thing, it's going to stretch and skew the image so that it stays within a 16:9 box, but it allows for some smoothness to be factored in. But I leave my motion data alone. Now, if I'm using something other than a GoPro, I'll use the low pass filter. So like the RunCam 5 Orange, I'll do a video later on that, but I use the low pass filter at 1 kilohertz. And when we do that video, it'll make more sense. But I'm going to leave it here because GoPro does a great job with the gyro information going into gyroflow and doing all of the heavy lifting for you. So I usually find where, oh, there we go. Like I want my flight and my footage to start right after I take off. So I'm going to start there, and notice it made some changes. And then at the very end, I always find my end point right before I land, because you see this big old flump kind of deal. That's going to affect the rest of the stabilization in there, and I want to stop the video right before that because, quite frankly, me landing isn't that interesting. So we're going to go ahead and hit the trim end, and notice that changed it even a little bit more. So let's go ahead and, because you can see what's going on here, I'm going to go ahead and go back to seeing what the camera is going to see. So let's go back to the beginning, and here it is. So this is what it looks like after it's been stabilized. So this is super smooth, and you can turn this off to see that it's not really that smooth without stabilization. So it's already doing the crop in and everything, but we're going to let stabilize come back in, and how much much more smooth that is. Now here's the thing. You don't always want it to be able to rock and roll. What if you want to lock the horizon? Click lock the horizon, and now it's going to make it as level as it can. Of course, it's going to have to zoom in and zoom out and get kind of crazy. And we can do this, and you can see how much it's having to crop into the image. Personally, unless you're doing something that legitimately needs a locked horizon, I leave that alone. FOV, my recommendation is to leave that at 1, because if you make it any tighter, it's going to, well, it's going to take this image and you're going to see these black bars kind of around the side here. And I'll do this just to kind of give you an idea. See, when you go too far, see how that does there and it comes in? So that's why you want to leave that about 1. So I leave it at 1. Let it do its thing. Now, here's the other thing that I like to do. Oh, let me turn off locked horizon again. Sorry about that. Smoothness at 0.5. Yes, it makes it a lot smoother. But I don't know about a lot of you folks out there, but I still like my FPV footage to really feel FPV. I am quite partial to a 0.1. I'm going to zoom this out and show you, is because it's still smooth, but it's going to give you the most of your visibility back. And it's also, you know what, if you're not very good at flying, it is going to come through a little bit here, but it allows you to get a bit more of that FPV feel. So it keeps it closer to what like no stab would look like, but it takes out all the little jitters. And I get that that's not a no stab video, but if you're doing something where you want to showcase the footage and you want as much of the visibility as you can, and you're not going to, this is where that control comes in. So just to give you an idea, we're going to take it all the way up, and you can go all the way to like 1, and it's going to zoom in and crop in this much. But if I go again back to 0.1, look at that. You get a lot of your visibility back, and I am a huge fan of that setting right there. So that is typically video footage that I use. I stick with that one. Now, zooming speed, I kind of leave that one alone. Now, you can turn off no zooming. And see, this is the problem with no zooming, is it's going to make a much tighter space in there. So I'll allow for a dynamic zoom and let it kind of do its thing. This is, again, this is how I use it, and just to help you kind of get an idea. And zooming speed, the faster you make it, the more in and out that it's going to be, and the less dynamic, if you will. So if you notice that, it's going to loop back through. Now, lens correction strength is kind of a fun one. You can go 100% for this very pulled back super view kind of look. If you go all the way down to 0, it's going to just leave it kind of there. And it honestly, to me, it's kind of boring looking. So if you're trying to do more cinematic, you may want to go this route, but it's kind of slow feeling. But if you go 100%, look how much faster that feels. It gives you that sensation of speed. Again, I have my preference. I like about 77% because it retains a lot more of that more linear look, but it still has that little pull towards the edges, so where it's not quite as fisheye, but it still gives you that good sense of speed. Now, of course, once you kind of pick those few settings that you like and you want to export it, notice here the output size out of the box here with GoPro Hero 10 at 4K 60 wide, it's doing 4000 by 2250. Even if I'm doing a 1440p video with my Hero 9 in the same settings, I still select 4K down here as my export. And then from there, you can pick where you want the output to be. So if you want it to be on the same place as the Hero, just leave it there. If you want to change it, click your 3 dots. And then honestly, just hit export and you're good to go. So look, I just wanted to show you why I kind of quit using the built-in stabilization on the GoPro, and this is now how I do it all. Is it extra steps? Absolutely. But I've got the control over what I want. Because again, if I wanted to make this very linear for whatever reason, I can just easily lock that horizon, and now I've got this smooth, almost cine whoop style shot. I mean, not right here is not the best way to representation of it, but the idea is it stays pretty level. And if that's what you need, then that's what you need. And you may not know that till after your shoot that you need to go back and redo this. And then once you export it, you can color grade it and do all of that fun stuff, unless you use, GoPro colors, and that's just on you. So listen, I hope that I explained in this video how I utilize gyroflow and what makes it better than using built-in stabilization in the GoPro Hero. That's not to say you can't use it. Don't take that to be what I'm saying here. I'm just wanting you to understand why I don't use it and why I just use gyroflow, and I absolutely love it. All right, if this video helped you any, just give me some feedback. I'll be more than happy to take it. If you liked it and you want to see more on how to make video footage a little bit more fun for FPV use and all of that fun stuff, stay right here. I'm going to be working on my Runcam Orange 5 and how to make it look pretty sweet. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, and I will catch you all in the next one.